I'm going to show you how to build a beat on your phone using free drum kits and samples from within BandLab. First, I'll start by opening Studio. Then we're going to select Drum Machine. And we're going to make our beat from scratch today, so we'll select Empty. Then we're going to go to the top left, select 808, and we're going to change to a different drum kit. So here I can go through and sample different drum kits. So I like the way this Future Trap kit sounds, so I'm going to select that for our drum kit. Then I'm going to go in and set our tempo. For this, I'm going to bump it up to 140. Then I'm going to go back and we're going to program in our drums. And I'm going to make our beat 4 bars. Then, since our time signature is 4/4, and I selected 4 bars for our beat loop, I'm going to add a snare on every 3rd quarter note in our beat loop. And this is going to be your basic starting point for a trap beat. And then I'm going to add a kick on our 1 and our 4 in the first bar, then a 2 in the second bar, and I'm going to add an 8th note hi-hat pattern in. So we have our hi-hat here. So on every 8th note, I'm going to add a hi-hat. And so every 8th note is getting a hi-hat to start with, and then we can go back and add some variation. So we got this. Now we can add some variation in. So maybe on the first bar it goes. So maybe on our second bar we add a little fill right before the second snare hits and right before the 4th snare hits. So and then maybe we have those little fill hits be on the original hi-hat. Then we can start to add little random hits in here. We can add these fills just to give a little more variety to our loop and keep it more interesting. Now that I'm happy with how our beat's sounding, I'm going to exit out of here, and then I'm going to add pattern A onto our timeline. So now we can drag it out again. Now I have our beat looped on our timeline, and I want to go into BandLab's sample library, and I want to find some additional samples that we can layer on top of this beat just to help bring this to life. So I'm going to search my own sample pack because I know I have some cool chords within there. So now we just have to listen and pick what chords we want to use for our beat. So I think these could sound cool on top of our beat, so I'm going to hit plus to add these in, and then I'm just going to drag these over to match our beat's tempo. Now let's hit play and see how these sound. So they sound cool. We need to adjust the volume though a bit, so I'm going to bring down the vocals. So now that I'm happy with how the levels are, I want to go in and add an 808 to this. So I'm going to hit plus, then I'm going to go to virtual instruments, 808s. Now we're just going to listen to see which 808 we think will fit best on top of our beat. Subtle rattle sounds good to me, so I'm going to select that, and then it's going to pull up the piano. Now I just have to hit play and figure out what the root notes are that I want this bass to play. Playing around with subtle rattle, it didn't really work for me. I'm going to try analog desk now. Now we got to record in our pattern. So I'm going to hit record and then I'll play our pattern in. Now that we have our pattern in there, I'm going to go in, hold down on our grid, select all, click any note, then I'm going to hit Q, and now I'm going to quantize it to the 8th note. Now we'll hit play and hear how this sounds. clean up a couple notes in here. Now I'm going to add some effects to our bass. So we're going to select create. Then I'm going to add a multi-filter, because what I want to do is I want to make this a low pass, meaning we're going to let the low frequencies through, and I'm going to bring down the frequency. Essentially, this is just going to cut the highs out of our bass. So we'll take away some of that rattle on the top end, because I want this just to be more of a sub. So we'll click play and listen to what we're doing. If I turn up our resonance, you'll hear it'll make the cut it's doing a little bit more drastic, essentially attenuating the frequencies that we're cutting out. And now I actually want to add some higher frequencies back in after this multi-filter, and the reason I'm doing it like this is now I'm able to control how much distortion we have on our sub bass. So I can go over to distortion. Then we can just experiment with what we want to add. So let's try distortion plus plus for now. So I like the way that sounds, but I still want a little more on this. Let's try a bit crusher. So I've got the intensity at 44%, and then if I bring the mix up, you'll hear what it's doing. It's adding this ringing noise to it, which is really intense when I have it up high, but if I bring the mix down, it's subtle. And this just helps the bass will cut through on smaller speakers and sound a little bit louder than it actually is. So I'm gonna turn that down maybe 4%. I think 4% is good for me. So that sounds good to me. Now I'm gonna select everything we have and I'm gonna move it over. Then I'm going to take our vocal sample, copy it to the first bit, and I'm going to take our drum loop and I'm going to drag it over to continue. Now we can start our song off with just the drums. Then I'm going to duplicate our drum machine like this, duplicate, move this up, move it up again. Then I'm going to take our drum machine and make it so we have one for the intro and then one for when the bass comes in. Then I'm going to go into the effects for our drum machine, and on the first one that we have on the intro, I am going to band pass it, essentially cutting off all of the low end frequencies and the really high end frequencies, so it almost sounds like it's playing from in another room. And so to do that, I'm going to add the easy EQ, and then we can adjust our low pass and our high pass. And so while I'm doing this, I'm just going to loop the intro so we can hear only what we're working on. Hit play. And let's adjust our effects. And then to make the effect a little bit more drastic, I can add some reverb after this, and this will kind of attenuate that we're changing this. And then if we got a limiter after all of this, we can kind of squeeze this a bit. I'm having this smashing into the limiter, but I'm bringing the volume down. And this way the effects that we're doing are just a little more attenuated and sort of brought out. Then to give the beat even more life, I'm going to go in and we're going to use a virtual instrument. And for this, I want to add a guitar. So now let's listen to some guitars. I think this jazz guitar could sound really cool on this, so I'm going to add that. Now we just have to record in the guitar pattern. And I'm also going to turn the metronome on just to help this be a little bit easier with my timing. Cool. Now I can go into our pattern. Same as the bass, I'm going to select all, then I can click a note, hit Q, and I can quantize this to the 8th note. Now let's hear how this sounds and if we need to clean up any of the notes. So that sounds great to me. Now we're going to add the effects to this. So I'm going to go into our effects on the guitar, and we're going to add a mixture of delay and reverb to this. So first I want to add our delay, and I want this to be an eighth note delay. So we get da 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 da. So if I go on to delay and do D delay plus, we can select an eighth note for our rhythm. So I've got the time to the eighth note. Now we need to turn our feedback up a lot. Turn our metronome. And we can even do a little bit of high pass and low pass to make it so the original hit stands out just a little bit more than the delays. Now we can add a reverb on top of this. Bring the size down. And I want to do a little bit of EQ to this. So we'll go to tone, EQ 3M, and I'm going to bring down the highs a bit. Bring down the mids a little. Then to finish this off, I can go into modulation, and I can add a chorus pedal. Then to make it so the intro and the hook has a little bit more separation, we can do the same thing as the drums, which is duplicate the guitar, and then we'll make it so we have one for the intro and one for the hook. So on the intro one, I'm going to use the same band passing that we used on the drums. And we're going to use an easy EQ, and we're going to low pass it and high pass it. So then to finish off this beat, we can just add some vocals to it. And to do that, I'll hit plus, hit voice and audio. Then if I select this headphone icon, I'm going to be able to hear my voice in real time through the microphone, so we can audition some of the presets. So I'll click that now. Now, if I click on the presets, I can hear what my voice sounds like with the presets on. Then I'm going to select auto pitch. Then I'm going to double check our key, F minor, that's correct. Then I'm going to select for our pitch intensity, somewhere around 50% to start, and we can always change this later. Now I'm just going to do a couple riffs over the intro. Now I want to record an ad-lib over the hook. And so to me, that's the beat itself done. The last thing I want to hear on this is just some lyrics over that hook. So I'll record something in now. Before I do that, I'll select voice and audio, turn our auto pitch on. Then I need to select our vocal preset. This low and 2 sounds really good. So let's try something with this. Cool, and so that's our beat finished. I'm really happy with how this turned out. And as you can see, it's super easy to create some high quality sounding beats using BandLab's very own drum kits and sample library. I really hope this inspired you to go and create some more beats of your own. And so I think the last thing to do is just to play the beat back from the top.